Welcome, baseball family. This week we have kindergarten shenanigans, Aaron Judge trade rumors, and your fantasy baseball special.
9+ Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast, baseball family. I am Brad, and as always, on my left here, I've got our guy Brig. Welcome, Brig. How are you today?
Hey. I'm good. I am rocking my hat sideways, because I've been inspired by the new era to be ridiculous.
A little bit off the wall, a little bit different. But that's not what New Era has been. Let's just get straight into it, Brig, because New Era has done it again. They dropped another collection of hats, and they're calling it the Scribble Collection.
I call it the Scribble-de-Dibble Collection.
The Scribble-de-Dibble Collection. And quite honestly, I looked at this and I was like, if I wanted to have just somebody drawing on my hat, all kinds of things and whatnot, I would buy a $45 hat and then give it to my 7-year-old, say, go crazy, draw pictures, write messages, whatever you want. It's a good idea for Father's Day, right? Maybe that's something that mom's going to do for Dad's for Father's Day.
Hey. I like that.
But I would not buy a hat that somebody has already done that with.
Nope. And not for a premium price of $52 or whatever they're charging.
Yeah, no, not at all. The only way that I would do this is if they took a hat to, say, a children's hospital and they passed it around the ward, right? Like the pediatric cancer ward, and had these kids draw some of their favorite things on there. And then they took it to the factory, duplicated it, replicated it for however many print, and then all the profits, or however much of the profits, whatever, goes to that children's hospital. I would buy that.
I would buy the crap out of that.
Yeah, but this, where it means nothing or makes no sense, no thank you, sir.
No thank you much. You know what we call this? This is the mostest stupidest.
The mostest stupidest. I think I think you're spot on with that.
It's called.
That sounds
the mostest
right.
Stupidest. To use the parlance of our times.
Yes, I think you're right on with that. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all. In fact, I didn't want to show it on YouTube because it is so bad. It's
so bad.
I saw somebody on Facebook commented and said that the hat looks like Post Malone's face.
Oh, whoa. Does that mean I just called Post Malone's face the most stupidest?
I don't know that it's necessarily a transient property. Thank you very much.
These comments do not conduct electricity. Okay. Let's move on before I offend somebody else.
Let's talk about Josh Donaldson real quick. Okay. Because quite honestly, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's interesting. I'm not really sure what else it is. So so Josh Donaldson and Tim Anderson got into it this weekend. Like you said, there's lots of chirping back and forth. I assume you were watching these games at least to some degree, Break, right?
For sure watching, yeah.
Okay. So Josh Donaldson at one point pushed Tim Anderson off the base at third base. This is in Chicago. An attempt to get an out, which obviously, as we know, doesn't work. But I feel like when they do that, it's like joking around, right?
This wasn't, though.
It wasn't joking around?
No, he tried to play it off like it was. He was like, well, hey, I'm just being competitive. I'm just, we're just fun in here and everything like that. But it was like, come on, man. You're not Miggy.
So I'll get to that in just a second, too. Okay. So Josh Donaldson called Tim Anderson Jackie at least once during the series.
Yep.
And he says that's a callback to a 2019 interview where Tim Anderson said that he was he was kind of being like the new Jackie Robinson, bringing fun back to the game. And
that's what Josh Donaldson said, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, Donaldson said that he was joking around with him, calling him Jackie multiple times since then without a problem. And real quick, before we get too far, I feel like maybe Josh Donaldson thinks that he's closer with Tim Anderson than Tim Anderson thinks he is.
Yeah.
Right? That maybe Josh Donaldson's one of those guys who feels like he's friends with everybody in the league, but most of the guys in the league are like, I'm not your friend, pal.
Right. Thanks, Buckaroo.
Right?
Well, the way he chews his gum in the dugout would at least, it's got to ostracize at least 25% of players in the league. It's so bad. It's so intense.
Well, he's kind of one of those guys that he kind of has a polarizing personality, right? Where it's like really like you either like his shenanigans and kind of what he's about, or you don't at all. Like I think at one point he was wearing extensions just so he could have a little bit of hair hanging out the back of his, little bit more hair hanging out the back of his hat. Yeah, I think it was when he was in Toronto. He was doing that.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true, but I heard that on the radio somewhere. So
okay.
There's that. But anyway, MLB's official position on this, Michael Hill, MLB's, what's that?
We got to jump in here and say that all this chirping and this back and forth resulted in a benches clearing outbreak, I guess is the best way to call it. And
something.
You know what? It's so funny to listen to John Sterling and Susan Waldman talk about benches clearing because they're like, and here comes the bullpen. God, that's the stupidest thing. Why do they do that? Why do they even send the bullpen in? Why do we need them? We don't need you. It's so funny. They're so curmudgeonly about it. Such curmudgeons about it that they're like, no, go back, stop. Why would you run all the way? This is so dumb. It's so funny to listen to them.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Anyway.
So MLB's official position is, according to Michael Hill, MLB's senior vice president for on-field operations. Quote, MLB has completed the process of speaking to the individuals involved in this incident. There is no dispute over what was said on the field. So it sounds like everybody's agreeing. And then he continues, says, regardless of Mr. Donaldson's intent, the comment he directed toward Mr. Anderson was disrespectful and in poor judgment, particularly when viewed in the context of their prior interactions. In addition, Mr. Donaldson's remark was a contributing factor in a bench-clearing incident between the teams and warrants discipline. Now, it might have been like one of those things where at the time where he's like, hey, Jackie, after the interview, right? And he goes, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And then like next year, hey, Jackie, the joke's over, man. Like,
right. That's what I think.
You know, like I feel like that's what it was, and then it's one of those things where he took the joke too far, and I feel like there are some.
Think it was a joke.
Well, yeah,
I think what happened is Josh Donaldson went, "Who does this upstart joker think he is?" in his mind or whatever, and then said, "Hey, Jackie," you know, like
I don't know that it was necessarily that. To me, it felt like there was maybe some, like maybe a little bit different undertone, but there was some undertone to it.
Sure. That
I don't necessarily want to get into because it's a whole thing.
Yeah,
but,
it's a thing.
And I could see why it would be inappropriate, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was very uncomfortable when I saw it, and then when he was explaining it away, I was like, I'm still very uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, that's not helping. Like I know you think that's the story. I got it. He really does believe that that's what's going on. But I still am uncomfortable.
Exactly right. 100%. Let's talk about Adley Rutschman. So the Orioles called up the #1 prospect in all of baseball in what day is it? It's the end of May, Brig.
It's 24th.
I'm
23rd.
not sure if maybe there was a little bit of service time manipulation going on there.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe there was an MVP/Rookie of the Year manipulation thing happening.
Well, so I'll get into that.
You brought that up. Yeah.
I'll get into that in just a second. So he, like I said, #1 prospect in baseball, switch hitting catcher for the Orioles. He tripled to get his first major league hit in his 3rd plate appearance. He struck out, walked. I believe he struck out. Anyway,
yeah,
then he walked.
I think something like that.
And then he hit a triple into the corner. I honestly, Brig, I think it would have been a double if Brett Phillips had been able to pick the ball up.
It was kind of ugly. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was his best fielding or if his pitching is better. It's right in there. It's they look similar.
I'll say this: Brett Phillips is one of my candidates for most improved this year because I feel like he's been a lot better, but that was not one of his better moments for sure.
That's old school Brett Phillips.
Yeah, that was definitely old school Brett Phillips. But no, like, I wonder if the Orioles were like, he has a better chance of winning Rookie of the Year or winning an award next year because Julio Rodriguez has been on fire.
Yeah, he has.
But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but Julio's been performing, and I've been very, very happy with it. In fact, 3-run home run tonight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's what I think.
Pumped about this.
Here's what I think about Adley Rutschman. I think that the Orioles needed a shot in the arm because, again, they've been like a thorn in team sides, but now they're winning. Like, and the Yankees are slumping a little bit right now, and it's weird. And they beat them tonight. The Orioles beat the Yankees tonight. So I feel like it's fun. It's got to be fun for that club of guys that are old, right? It's not like the Orioles are a young club. They're a bunch of old dudes. For the most part, yeah. They're like it's like the newlyweds and nearly deads. You know what I'm talking about? It's like it's a bunch of older guys and a bunch of really young guys. And like 3 super young dudes. Yes. And I mean, Cedric Mullins is one of those really young guys, and he's really good. And then you bring in Adley Rutschman, who seems like he's gonna be really good. Yeah. So yeah. They could really be a nuisance. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, but you give them the experience this year, they might just make it next year. They might. But a nuisance is exactly right. And they continue to be, like I said, they have been, and now this might be added, gas on the fire kind of a thing. I don't know. It's pretty fun, though, for Adley. It's fun to watch him. It's fun to watch. Did you see, so real quick, two things with him. First off, he is from my neck of the woods. He was born in Portland, the area where I grew up. So I'm actually I found that out tonight. It changed my entire opinion of him. I saw him come up. I was like, I really want him to slump now because I don't want him contending with Julio Rodriguez. Yeah. But anyway, no, I'm going to cheer for him because he's from my neck of the woods. But also, did you see the clip of him when he came out to catch the bottom or the top of the first inning? No. I saw him shake the hand of the umpire, but I don't. It was that one. It was that one. So he came out, he shook the hand of the umpire, and then before he even put his mask on, he just kind of stood at home plate and looked around, just like, man, this is it. And I was like, that's really cool seeing somebody just soak it in, and appreciate the moment, right? Yeah, and not make it look like he's bigger than the moment is. That he's really gets the gravity of all of it, and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun to see. Well, and I feel like that's what you get from catchers, right? Because they just think differently. They just have a different perspective on the game than most other position players. Well, and you don't have a free second to do that. No. In the outfield, especially, you can turn around, you can look around and see what all is going around. But as a catcher, that's your one shot. Yeah, and you got to do it when you get out there. It's really cool. Yeah, so it was kind of a humble thing. Yeah. And he squatted down before he started taking the warm-up pitches, and he just kind of shook his head like, I cannot believe this is happening, but I got to play. I got to go to work right now. Yeah. It's cool. Really cool. Really, really cool. So it looks like the KBO and MLB are discussing a partnership. Brig, what do you know about this? I know I got my KBO hat on. Hey, guess who else does? Oh, yeah! Got my Dinos inspired hat on. Woo! Your championship NC Dinos. Okay. Yes. Yes, I do know a little bit about this. What is they're all preliminary discussions right now, but basically what's going on is the KBO and the MLB are discussing swapping teams for opening days. What they're going to do is send KBO teams to the United States and send the U.S. teams over to Korea. And we don't know what it'll end up being, obviously, but the international relations people from MLB and the KBO folks are all talking about promoting the game, cross promotion between here and the peninsula. So it's pretty exciting, actually. And I think this is what right looks like. That's awesome. Yeah. They should do that. They should do that with Japan as well. Yeah, for sure. I don't know that it would necessarily work with Australia, or I want to say Denmark has a league. Taiwan, probably not. Yeah, Taiwan has a league. I don't know that they would necessarily work because I feel like Korea and Japan have the top two like international leagues, right? Yeah, but they could certainly do it with Mexico. They could do it in Mexico, and they have done it in Mexico. They've played games in Mexico before. Yeah, but bringing Mexican teams across the border, I think would be cool. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. Fun. So there, a poll. You know, they do polls. Everybody does polls. And I think it's some 60 or over 60% of Koreans, South Koreans, said that baseball is their number one favorite sport.
I believe it.
Yeah, with the way they handle the games.
Yeah. It's a different world. Literally a different world over there with the way they play baseball.
I still can't believe I missed a game when I had the chance. But anyway, yeah, no, it's really cool. KBO, they have 10 teams. Just an update for everybody. They play 144 games in a season, and their playoff structure is totally different. We have videos on how that works, and you can go check them out on YouTube. Or
I will actually link in the description on YouTube. I will link to the KBO playlist so you can go see all that stuff, all the explanations. We broke down some of the teams and stuff like that back in 2020 when the KBO was all we were getting at the time.
All we had. So it was
fun.
Good times. Weird times, but good times.
Yeah, weird times. Speaking of weird times, Brig, apparently Aaron Judge has become the subject of trade rumors.
That's correct.
Because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason. There was no extension reached, none of that. He's past arbitration, everything. So do you think there's a team, like, is there a contender that would really sell out to get Judge, or do you think everybody's just going to be like, nope, we'll sit and wait till he's a free agent, we're going to bring him on over with the money? I mean, even as a rental though.
No, nobody's going to rent him. Nobody's going to rent him.
You don't think anybody's going to rent? You don't think that a contender wouldn't be like, we could use the bat for October?
Well, as long as the Yankees aren't in, then yeah, I could see that. But I don't see the Yankees not getting in, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
What couple things that I did hear and have heard, which are astonishing, is MLB insider Kylie McDaniel. The opinion of this particular writer is that he could move across town
as a free agent
to the Mets.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in the offseason,
yeah, in the offseason, yes. These are both offseason rumors, but Jeff passing the ball.
Jeff Passan,
my man Jeff Passan. He's got an opinion. He said that he thinks that we could end up in a bidding war with San Francisco. And mostly because they could rebuild around him. They have all the money. And I think I don't know. They have all the money. They have so much
San Francisco has all the money, is that what you're saying?
Yes, and Jeff made that very clear. I can't remember exactly how much he said they have in their player pool salary cap. But it's intense.
Well, so he is from the area.
No, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, he went to school at Cal State Fresno.
Yeah,
and he's from Linden, California, which I believe is up in that area, right?
It's northern.
Yeah, so San Francisco would be appealing, I believe.
Yep.
So.
I just can't imagine him not playing in the Bronx. I just don't understand. I can't.
Well, I mean, if they're not going to give him a reasonable offer, they didn't give him apparently didn't give him a reasonable offer, according to him and his agent.
Yep.
And if they're not going to give him a reasonable offer this offseason, then it's very realistic that he could leave. And he's having one of those seasons for a guy where it's like, well, yeah, you had your bargain.
Sorry,
before,
bud.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like the cost is only going up.
It really is only going up.
Aaron Judge is the personification of inflation right now.
Yeah, well, and he's huge, but he's on pace to hit. He's on pace to hit 58 at least home runs this year, and there's rumor that he could hit 60, and that's entirely possible. It really is.
As long as he stays healthy, I wouldn't be surprised. He's one of those guys where I'm more surprised when he doesn't hit a home run because of his size.
Me too. And let's not forget, he is a first-rate outfielder. He can play right field among the best of anybody, and he's really good at center field, we're finding out.
Well, and doesn't he throw like 102, something like that?
Yeah. No, dude's got a freaking rocket.
Granted, it's on a crow hop, but still, 102 is 102.
It doesn't matter. Think of the only time geometry matters to me is when you're talking about baseball. And think of the arc, right? He comes all the way back, and his wingspan is like 7,000 feet long, and then he whips it around, and it's got all that jet fuel behind it. Oh, it's intense.
Oh yeah,
That's the scientific explanation.
All the geometry and physics, bring it all adds up. Trigonometry, it all makes sense.
I don't know what you just said, trigger what, but yes.
You're right, though. It all makes sense why he would have such a good arm. Yeah. So it's something to keep an eye
on. That'll be one of my big hot stove watches for millions of reasons, obviously.
Yes, so many reasons. Okay, let's talk about somebody else who has a good arm, but not necessarily from where we saw him this weekend. Yadi pitched. And apparently these guys are pitching because the Cardinals are blowing people out.
They are.
Like big time.
Or it rains.
Well, it rained and they were blowing out the Pirates.
Yeah.
Like absolutely blowing out the Pirates. So I had that game. I had on my Sunday parlay, or Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, I had the Cardinals over. Yeah. And they scored. They had 5 runs in the second inning. I was like, oh yeah, I think they're gonna hit it. And then I checked like 30 minutes later. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. The Cardinals hit it by themselves.
No big deal.
Oh my goodness!
Over.
And then 9.
9. Like that. No big deal.
I had to have 10 total runs scored in the game, and they scored it by themselves, like the 4th inning or something like that. Like, there we go. All right, very good.
That was great.
But yeah, and then I went to check the score later of that game in particular because I noticed that it was continuing to go up. And as I was looking at it, I saw that it was 15-0, and I went to go show my wife. I was like, look at the score. She goes 18-0. I was like, what?
Huh?
That's not what the score was a second ago.
Oh, you don't say. Yeah,
there were 2 guys on base. Now there are none. I understand what happened there. It's so funny. Fantastic. But to preserve pitchers, I guess Yadi has been wanting to pitch. I would think so. I mean, this
after
is the thing,
Albert did.
Well, yeah, especially after that. And as a catcher, I get it. You spend all that time in the bullpen. Like, I could pitch.
Yeah, of course you could.
You can't pitch. You can't pitch. There's a reason you're not pitching. Let's be real. Yeah. But so Yadi went out there. He pitched 1 full inning, gave up 4 hits, 4 runs, no walks, didn't strike out anybody. He gave up 2 home runs. Good enough for an ERA of 36 even, just like Albert Pujols himself.
That's what I was going to say, is they now have the same ERA.
I'm curious.
Go to the Hall of Fame with the same ERA.
You know what's going to happen is they're going to need another position player to pitch again, and these guys are so competitive. They're going to be fighting to get on the mound so they can improve their ERA. So one of them has a lower ERA.
That's exactly what's going to happen. You know that's right. Well, so I did a little digging, and there are 13 other position players who have pitched this season so far. And it is ridiculous. Do you want me to go through this list really quick?
Yes, please. How many appearances, first off, does Brett Phillips have?
2 games, 3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 8 runs, 3 homers, 0 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a 24 ERA.
He's better than the other 2.
He's better than me. That's what I was like,
with more innings pitched. With more innings.
That's right. Oh man, goodness. And he's giving up more runs on top of that, which is awesome.
All right, who else?
Okay, Carson Kelly of the Diamondbacks, obviously Brett Phillips, Will Myers, San Diego Padres, D. Strange Gordon, Washington Nationals.
Yes, that's right.
Mike Brasso from Milwaukee Brewers, Diego Castillo for Pittsburgh, Kevin Plawecki for Boston Red Sox, Matt Reynolds, Cincinnati, Nick Gordon, Minnesota Twins, Luis Gonzalez, San Francisco Giants, Albert Pujols, St. Louis, Hans, how do you say that name? Hanser Alberto. I don't know who that is. For LA, Chad Pinder, Oakland, and now Yadi. That's all.
You're 14. Missing one. You're missing one.
What am I missing?
During this, during that same game, Josh Van Meter with the Pirates pitched too. Yeah,
he did really.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Well,
so Van Meter had to catch a game earlier this season where he was not a catcher. He had to go pitch. I'm curious which he was like freaking out about less, right? Like, which was more stressful, getting on the mound trying to throw strikes off of a hill, or getting behind the plate and catching for the first time in however many years?
What do you think would be more stressful?
Pitching, 1,000% for me at least. But I'm also, I don't know. My thing is, like, you give me a cup and catcher's gear and I'm not afraid.
Right.
You could
even
wing,
catching 98, 99.
That's what I was saying. You could
there,
wing 98, 99 at me and I'm going to be okay. It's going to hurt for a minute, but I am not good. I wasn't good at throwing strikes to 7-year-olds this season. I know I'm not going to be good throwing strikes to grown men.
But you were on one knee. You were on one knee, and there was no rotation, and you're using your elbow to throw the ball.
There's a reason for that, Brig. I'm trying to
I know.
reduce the motion.
I know. And the strike zone is 12 feet wide and 6 feet tall.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because they're going to swing at everything. They get 5 pitches regardless of where they are. So they're swinging. Exactly right. I will say this, though. By the time I got to the end of the season, though, I was not missing bats. I was pretty happy with myself.
That's awesome.
Pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty rad.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
No, I do think pitching would be way more stressful. There's a lot more pressure on you when you pitch because you have to throw strikes. You can't just walk everybody around because you'll never get out of the inning with that. But anywho, all right. We have something going on at Coors Field. We have more history. Brian Servant
is making history.
History writes itself at Coors Field. Brian Servant, he's a rookie catcher for the Rockies. Is that right, Brig?
Yep.
So his first 2 hits as a big leaguer were both home runs. It's the first time in Major League Baseball history that a rookie's first 2 hits have been home runs, which is interesting because you have guys like Trevor Story who just was crushing the ball when he came up, right? He had 7 home runs in his first 8 games, something like that. He was just unreal. I remember when he came up and everybody was just so high on Story. And then you got other guys who come up. Who was the kid for the Reds a couple years ago? Who was just crushing home runs his first month up. He set a record.
Yeah. It was crap. What was his name? Billy or something?
No.
Dang it! No, seriously. What was his name?
I don't know. Anyway, we'll find it during the break.
Okay.
But no, he set a record. This thing, and the reason we don't remember is because he actually got DFA'd this season. I do remember.
Yeah, he's gone. He's not.
But the fact that none of these guys hit home runs in their first 2 at bats, despite everything else they did, that's crazy. I mean, he did get a little help from the altitude, but you still got to make contact.
You still got to make contact. You still got to put the barrel on the ball. You still got to hit it right and drive it. Yeah, there's a lot to it for sure. But good for him. Very excited for Brian.
Yeah.
First time in MLB history. Super. I love when stuff like that happens where it's like, what? That's never happened? Which
is crazy.
Like 20,000 baseball players never ever?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Super cool. Yeah. More home runs to go on here, Brig. We got back-to-back on back-to-back days. Patrick Wisdom and Frank the Tank Schwindel. I have to include
Frank the Tank.
They went back-to-back on Saturday, then again went back-to-back on Sunday against the Diamondbacks. They are the first Cubs duo to do this since Ernie Banks and Jim Hickman in the summer of '69, August 23rd and 24th. This is the thing about the Cubs, is they're not playing great baseball overall, but I do feel like you're seeing hints of a potentially very good team.
For sure.
That Patrick Wisdom, there's a reason the Cubs traded Chris Bryant, because we got this dude, he's a stud. And then you've got Frank Schwindel, who they traded for, who has turned out to be very good so far as well. I'm curious if they can develop these guys to, I don't know if they necessarily need to raise their ceiling, or if they, I don't know. It's weird because I'm not super familiar with these guys, so I don't know if they've hit their ceiling and it's like, oh, they're really, really good, or if they're continuing to hit their ceiling, right?
Right.
If they have more that they can do. Yeah. Yeah. If the roof is the ceiling
instead of being on fire.
Yeah. You don't want it to be on fire. You don't want to raise
it. That's right. Especially if you're from the 90s kids era. It's important details.
Very. Yeah. But no, I'm curious though, what the Cubs are going to be in 2 years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it could. I mean, they could come back down to earth a little bit, and I mean that would be sad, obviously. But unless you're a fan or a St. Louis fan, I guess then you're jumping for joy. But but it would be kind of fun to watch them succeed. Although, if they're going to trade away Wilson Contreras, I'm not sure they're going to. I don't know. That one little change to the clubhouse dynamic like that could be a huge problem. I mean, you could argue that this Josh Donaldson thing rubbed everybody the wrong way in the Bronx, and now they're all uncomfortable, and now they're in a slump. So, I mean, it really can turn on small things.
It's
no
true.
idea.
Yeah. The clubhouse dynamic is surprisingly fragile or sensitive. I honestly feel like if Wilson Contreras came into Seattle, they would just go on a tear and win everything.
Exactly. I guarantee it. That is exactly what would happen.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, we got one more thing here. Major League Baseball and minor league baseball players, they reached a settlement, or they have a settlement pending. Brig, what's going on?
It's a pending settlement. So in 2014, a case was filed against Major League Baseball for labor laws. Right, the Fair Labor Standards Act. Players that were playing in California and were being sent to Arizona and Florida for overtime hours, and they weren't getting compensated for travel time, travel expenses, etc. There's a lot of nuance to this case, but ultimately what's happened is that for the last 8 years, they have been talking about this. They've been gathering documents, and all the lawyers have been doing their deposition investigation, etc. So what they've come to is now a trial was set for June 1st, and they've managed to come to a tacit agreement. And I only say tacit agreement because it has to be officially approved by the courts before they can settle entirely, like legally settle this case. But sources who wish to remain anonymous have reported that they could settle for about $200 million. And now the case was filed by 3 players they're all now retired. I think I know they all spent the majority of their time in minor league baseball, and never really came up if they did, it wasn't too much. Let me get their names for you really quick. We've got Aaron Sen, 10th round pick of the Marlins, retired in 2013. 2 other retired players. We've got Kansas City infielder Michael Liberto and Oliver Odell who did pitch for San Francisco, actually. So they're claiming that all of this fair labor laws were violated with, like I said, travel and overtime and things like that. So I think for me, this is a huge deal, landmark case on behalf of minor league baseball players, not just prior to 2014, but especially since between 2014 and now. But then it'll be interesting to see how Major League Baseball continues to address, and I argue fix, the problems that are happening in how minor league baseball players are compensated for their time and their efforts and etc.
Yeah, and you're right. I feel like this lawsuit is actually a big part of the reason we saw realignment and reorganization in minor league baseball. I was talking to, when I was with a minor league baseball team in 2016, the summer of 2016, we were talking with an umpire supervisor, and he actually referenced this lawsuit, and he said, whether they win or lose, he's like, things are going to change. There's going to be a big shakeup because of this lawsuit. And that's what, and like I said, that's what we already saw. But I think what he was saying, though, is if they win, it's going to be really, really, really big. And I feel like what we saw was big, but what could be coming could be even bigger.
Huge.
As a result of this.
Yeah, I agree. But
could be some trouble.
I still contend that wiping out the entire rookie league and having no more rookie ball and unaffiliated relationships with all those teams does pave the way for expansion teams and all of the tiers beneath them that they will need.
It could. Yeah, because then you're only getting 8 teams?
Yeah.
Instead of having 30. I know not everybody had a rookie league team, so you probably had 20, let's say 24.
20 or so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're getting 8 new teams instead of 20.
And at each tier, instead of just one, so you take up a whole bunch of small pots of money and you put them across 8 tiered pots of money. I don't know. It just, to me, the math makes sense without even knowing the numbers. I can just see it all working out. But
yeah, it does.
Anyway, the end.
It does make sense. So before we go to break, real quick, let's talk about Patreon again, Brig. So for those of you who don't know, if you haven't heard, or we're going to remind those of you who do know, we have a Patreon. We call our patrons our rooters because you're rooting for us, and we're all rooting together because that's what we do. We have 3 different tiers for you: $5, $10, $15 a month. You get a hat, T-shirt. Like I said last week, we're considering putting some new and fun things on there for you as well. When we get those all hammered out, we'll have them on there under the tiers and the perks for everything. So you hop on Patreon and search Baseball Together. You can find us and sign up to be one of our rooters. And with that, baseball family, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to give you a fantasy baseball update. And included with that, we have lots of injury updates.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back with me. Root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Shop kids' baseball shirts at 9plusS.com.
The Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back, baseball family. We are going to give you a bunch of updates that you're going to need for your fantasy league. If you're in a normal league with normal rules, you're allowed to change your roster at any time. We have to give Brad crap about that because the way he set ours up, it doesn't work that way, which is fine. We like the way you did it, Brad.
No, nobody likes the way I did it, Brad. Let's be honest. Nobody does.
It's really. I've had Chris Bryant and Jacob deGrom on my starting lineup since day one because I keep forgetting to do anything about it, and then by the time I can do something about it, the day's gone. Anyway, the point is we got some fantasy updates for you. We're gonna go. Brad's gonna run through our league and give you updates on what has happened this last week. But then we're also gonna jump into injury updates that you are gonna want to know for your fantasy team, so that you don't run into problems like I've had with deGrom.
Well, and me. So I'm going to actually start with my team, right? My matchup here real quick. So I've got not another fantasy team with Jason, and I'm the Manitoba Man Clowns. Jason beat me 351 to 310. Do you know what that difference is, Brig?
2 players.
A DH.
Yeah.
I haven't had a DH in my lineup for 2 weeks until today. So I'm hoping I'm on a 3-game losing streak. I'm hoping I can come back and I can get a W. Jason's 4-2. I'm 3-3 after last week. And then we have Springfield Nuclear, who's Tori, and then Brigger Mortis. Brig, you only lost by 11 points.
I know. It's because of deGrom and Chris Bryant.
It is.
Because one of my starting pitchers has been out the whole time, and Chris Bryant's played 2 baseball games all season or whatever.
You still got 3 points from him.
It's because the team won or whatever.
Exactly. It's exactly where your points came from, 1,000%. So Tori's top scorer, though, was Paul Goldschmidt again, although he only scored 68 points. Yours was Ty France. Ty France has kind of come back down to earth. I think he's going back up, though. You had 59 points for him last week. Ty France has been interesting. He's like one of the best hitters for the Mariners, but at the same time, he's been streaky as all get out right now. So right. I think he's going to find a groove, and I think you're going to be okay, Brig.
I moved him around. He's still on my lineup.
There you go. And then we've got Grace Under Fire, Denise against Zip, our listener participant, the Springfield Isotopes. Denise won that one 441 to 371. Denise is, as you would expect, her top player was Anthony Rizzo. Denise is going to have Rizzo on her team no matter who he plays for because she loves him so much, and I get that.
No doubt.
And Zip's top player was Tim Anderson with 58 points.
Of course it was.
So I'd like to see Zip get some points this week, to be honest with you. I'm not sure who he's going up against. I might have to take a look here in just a minute. But actually, I can look right now. Zip's going up against Torrey and currently down 51 to 27. But I don't know. Maybe he'll get there.
Are you kidding me? I'm already losing to Jason just after today. Are the games over or what?
No, they're not. But there wasn't. Not everybody played today, so I think you're going to be okay. And then our last matchup, we had John, who was the Harrisburg Charlies, go up against Jewel, Big League Chupacabra. I still maintain, I think I say it every week, that's the best name in the league.
It is exquisite.
It's strong. It's real good. Jewel won that one 411 to 356. Jewel's on a 5-game winning streak. He's currently 5-1.
Yeah, he's crushing.
So you don't want to go up against him. He's beating everybody.
I did that. It was not a pleasant experience.
I do feel like CJ Cron is going to come back to earth though, because he got 65 points from him last week. He's not going to get that from him in August. I guarantee you. He's going to have to find somebody else to fill in that hole, and Joel is not going to be the juggernaut that we've come to know so far. John's top player was Will Smith, who he said when he drafted Will Smith, he said, "I'm drafting the best catcher in the game," and I think he might be right.
He was dead on it. Dead on it.
Will Smith has been outstanding this year. Been very, very good for the Dodgers and apparently for John as well, but not good enough last week. So John is 3-3, Jewel is 5-1, Denise is 3-3, Zip is 1-5, Brig, you're 1-5, Tori is 4-2, I am 3-3, and Jason is 4-2 going into this current week. Now
I made some big changes. Listen, I made some big changes. Okay.
You did make some big changes. I made some changes today too. I went through and I updated my rooster a little bit. I put a DH in. I put in Dansby Swanson over Corey Seager because here's the interesting thing, Brig. The two of them are only separated by 0.4 points on average per week.
You know, it's interesting, the average points, when you factor that into who, especially if you're anything like me and you apparently, and you're looking at who's left available in the league, you're like, oh, 4.5 points, or 4.8 points. I don't know. I was averaging. It's really funny because when you compare it to their total points throughout the season, you got, I'm telling you, if your people haven't earned 200 points throughout the season already by now, it's useless. You don't want them on the team right now.
Yep, it's true. So I put in Dansby Swanson over Corey Seager. Part of the reason I did that this week is because the Braves are playing one more game than the Rangers.
You look at you being smart about
the Braves are playing every day this week, and the Rangers had Monday off. So I did that. I also replaced Kevin Gausman with Justin Verlander. Because the Blue Jays have been struggling.
And I don't know if pitching well.
Verlander's pitching out of his mind. However, he got me 0 points today because the Astros lost 6-1. So there's that. But
you don't lose points with pitchers if the team loses, but you do with hitters, right?
No, you do. You do.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think actually. I don't know Verlander. I don't think Verlander pitched today.
Because I've had -1 points before when the team lost and Chris Bryant didn't play.
Yep. Yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, no, Verlander didn't pitch today. That's weird because the app told me that he was pitching today. That's strange. I must have just read it wrong. But anyway, so yeah, that's what we got going on with fantasy. Let's talk about injuries, Brig, because injuries have been piling up. And I think this is something we knew was going to happen, right? Because of a delayed start with spring training, a shortened spring training, and then you've got things have kind of been going full tilt. And I know that double headers aren't necessarily going to lead to injuries, but reduced rest will.
Well, and that's just baseball, Susan. So
you're right.
There's that as well.
Baseball. Yeah.
It's just playing baseball. So
yeah,
let's jump into this. A couple of Yankees, Louis Gill and Chad Green, both need Tommy John. Now, Gill is a prospect, but he's a big-time prospect we were really excited about, and it's not going to happen now. So Chad Green, though, losing Chad Green's a huge, huge deal, and I'm really worried about it. I'm not going to say it out loud too much, but I am afraid. St. Louis is going to lose Alex Reyes. He won't throw. He's having shoulder surgery. He hasn't pitched all year anyway, but he's not going to throw anything else the rest of the year. So Milwaukee loses.
Hold on.
Freddie.
Along the lines of St. Louis, though, let's stay in St. Louis for just a minute. Dylan Carlson is a significant injury for them.
True.
He's one of their top outfielders. He's out with a hamstring until at least June 5th. So I know that's only like a couple weeks for him. That's like 10-day, 15-day IL. But still, that's a big deal for them.
It's a big deal. Yep. Let's see who else we got. Milwaukee's losing Freddie Peralta. He's got shoulder tightness, but it's not just any shoulder tightness. He's going to be out till June 22nd projected. That's like rut row shoulder tightness. That's like maybe he tore one of his rotator cuff muscles, minor tear, something. We don't know that. That's all my speculation. But for you to be out for a month with shoulder tightness, it doesn't.
Yeah,
that doesn't.
Because usually shoulder tightness is coming from biceps tendonitis, and you give a guy a week and he's back.
Right, and that becomes your front deltoid. So if you're out for a month, it makes me think of the rotator cuff muscles.
Yeah,
that's all. Could
be.
Oakland is going to lose Frankie Montas. He took a comebacker on the mound. To his hand. They X-rayed his hand. Everything came back negative. And my favorite comment is he's like, "It's not numb anymore."
That's scary.
I think it's really great. So I think he's kind of on a, I don't know. I don't even want to say day to day. I don't even know if it's day to day, but he's definitely advocating for being just fine, obviously.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that remains the case. Let's move over to Anaheim, just down the coast a little bit. We've got Tyler Ward. He's a right fielder. Dude ran into the wall, as happens. And now they're worried about his neck. So he's getting an MRI on his neck. We don't have a return date because we don't have an out date. He's not necessarily out right now. But it is something to watch if you're an Anaheim fan.
That was an interesting collision that he had because at the time it didn't look like anything really happened. But then you could see he was hurt. And so it's like, oh man, he like roughed up his elbow a little bit. Yeah, like he looked like he kind of like grabbed his elbow. But then he stood up and they were like checking his neck. I was like, ruh-roh. That's not good for him. So hopefully it's not anything serious. He doesn't have to miss a bunch of time. But man, that's not a good way to go.
I agree. Speaking of rut row, Miami's Jazz Chisholm Jr. has left hamstring tightness. Still, there's no IL decision, but we want to watch it pretty close because that is one athletic dude. And for him to have a hamstring issue, if it becomes a nagging issue, that could be a huge problem in Miami. Now, luckily, Miami's not like a raging bull in the league or anything, so we're not going to have huge worries about like the team's record or anything like that. But you just hate to see a guy who has so much fun and is such a huge part of the club, have problems. So,
and a hamstring can really linger. That if they don't resolve it entirely before he comes back and he tries to play through it, and then you come back and they are maybe in the hunt for that last playoff spot in August.
Right.
That would be bad.
Yeah, that's the concern. So again, he's not on the IL yet, but we'll see. JD Martinez, again, he's not on the IL. Everybody says he's fine, but he back spasms. I think that's worth noting just because back injuries also linger and any little thing, you don't know, it can go at any time. So expect to see maybe a little less time from him or, something. I don't know, but I don't know. I just feel like you should watch that one. Tampa Bay, Andrew Kitrich, he's a relief pitcher. He's going to be on the IL for 10 days with a back injury. He's going to be out until June 3rd at least. Again, back stuff. Bobby Witt Jr. is out with wrist stuff. Chris Bryant still doesn't play baseball in Colorado because of all sorts of things. In Atlanta, we've got Tyler Matsic, who's got a shoulder problem. It's going to put him out till June 17th, and that's a rut row.
Real quick on Chris Bryant. So his is a back injury. It said that he was probable for the 24th, Tuesday. So keep an eye on him. If he doesn't come back, he might end up being day-to-day, or it could be potentially be more serious. It's been a while, like you said, but I think if he could potentially come back on Tuesday, then and he does, I think he'll be good to go.
Well, I hope so, because he's sitting on my bench, or maybe I released him. I don't remember, but I'm not happy with Chris Bryant. Okay, should have put that rookie in or something. Anyway, let's see, where are we? Alberto Mondesi, Kansas City. His knee is a huge problem. We don't know the details of it, but he will be out for the rest of the season. So he tore something. Good chance, ACL, MCL, something like that. Clayton Kershaw has pelvic issues, which just sounds funny, but it's not. And he'll be out until June 24th at least. This is one of those that's on the margin. We don't know how long he'll be out, but they know he's not going to come back until June 24th, and that is a big rut row.
I just checked on Mondesi. Alberto Mondesi is out with a torn ACL.
It is an ACL. Okay.
Yep.
That sucks. I hope you don't have Max Scherzer on your fantasy team. Because
I don't.
He's out until July 1st.
Because you do, right?
No, I don't have Max. Who does have Max? Is it Jason?
I don't know. I'll take a look.
Yeah, but I don't remember.
He is still out. I mean, we talked about how it's going to be a while for that oblique, but July 1st feels like a really long time.
I mean, it's 35, 40 days total, right? 45 even. So that's a long time. That sucks. But luckily, he's the kind of guy who he'll just come back in and perform. I feel like I don't worry about him swinging back in and needing to ramp up too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw I handled that first pitch with the ambassador to Japan or whatever, and he was like, "No, I'm a professional."
You see what Zip said about that? Zip said this injury is a curse as a direct result of the way he treated Japanese ambassador.
Oh no! Eastern medicine in reverse, rut row. Just kidding. Okay,
maybe you should have thought twice about that.
You made the wrong people angry. Staying in New York a couple of times. Trevor May, relief pitcher, out till July 7th with tricep issues. And my guy, Jacob deGrom, he is on my list.
That's who you have.
That's who I have.
That's right. I knew you had him.
It's been terrible. He still hasn't played any baseball, and he won't be playing baseball until July 22nd at least, with shoulder issues. More starting pitchers. We got Steven Strasberg is out until June 8th. He's got a neck issue that we're watching. Bryce Harper is out with UCL tear in his throwing elbow.
Well, he's not entirely out.
That's true. He doesn't play defense.
Yeah, he's kind of a day-to-day, but he's not throwing at all right now. He is hitting because you can hit with he can hit with a UCL issue, just like Ohtani did. He played an entire season as a DH. With a torn UCL. So Bryce Harper can continue to play, can continue to rake from the plate, but not going to see him in the outfield for at least 6 to 8 weeks, it looks like.
Very good. Fernando Tatis Jr. continues to be out with his wrist issue. June 25th is the earliest we're looking to see him come back, and that's a big rut row there as well.
So this is the thing that I think with Tatis is that the Padres are still playing very well. They're playing really good baseball, and this is actually going to be a problem for the rest of the NL West, is that when he gets back, look out.
Yeah.
Because his bat has been what they've been missing.
About the only thing, honestly.
Yep.
Let's see what else. Mitch Haniger, outfield with the
Mariners.
Yeah, his ankle is messed up.
So he went on the COVID list earlier this season, pretty early. Yeah. I mean, it's still early, but so he missed 10 days because of COVID, something like that. And then he came back in Miami. He hit the first pitch he saw to left field for a single, and he caught his spike coming out of the batter's box and rolled his ankle. He limped to first base on what probably could have been a double, and he came right back out.
That's terrible.
Yeah, everybody was like pumped, like, yes, Haniger's back. Here we go. This is the guy we've been waiting for. We need this guy. And then he just goes right back out. Rick Riz, the radio guy for the Mariners, I was listening. He like, you would have thought that like somebody had died on the field.
Everybody's like, oh,
he's like Mitch Haniger shoots a ball into left center field and he is limping. Haniger comes limping out of the batter's box down to first base. Oh no. Like, oh no.
I love Riz, by the way. He's great. He's so fun to listen to.
Yes, he's a lot of fun. And super nice, by the way. Well,
really?
Wilson and I met him this spring. Yeah, he was really nice to Wilson. So
that's really cool.
Went up a few more notches in my book. So really cool.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that.
Yeah. So a couple of updates on things that we have going real quick. So Max Scherzer, Jason has Max Scherzer on his team, not another fantasy team. And last segment, we were trying to figure out this Reds player who went on a tear his first month. It was Aristides Aquino with the Reds in 2019. He hit 14 home runs as a rookie in August. I believe that was a record at the time. Probably continues to be a record. But he was batting. He was batting 89 this season, and the Reds designated him for assignment. They didn't option him; they designated him for assignment. So.
Let's talk about the Reds for a minute because we have a ton of.
They've got a laundry list of issues.
I was just going to say, can we call it compassion? Because once we got really digging into this injury list thing, we realized that basically their entire payroll is injured.
Pretty much.
That's what it looks like. Like, what is it? 14 or 15 people that are injured right now? Or is it might even be more than that.
I have 14 guys on the injured list. I have one on there out for the season, but a big one to me is Jonathan India. And he was healthy until May 18th, and he should be back this week with a hamstring injury. I don't know for sure, but somebody I recognize, Jake Fraley, has missed some time with the knee, and he might continue to miss time with the knee because I think that's an ongoing issue for him. Another guy I recognize, Justin Dunn, is expected to be out until June with a shoulder injury. Now, he hasn't pitched this season because that's a shoulder injury that came over with him from Seattle.
Got it.
So there's that. As a pitcher, that's obviously a problem. But they have so many guys on the injured list, and I know people are like, "Well, you can't blame injuries because everybody gets injuries." But this many, you can blame this many injuries.
Yeah, you can blame
because there's only so much you can do. This is something I actually learned the last couple weeks because the Mariners have dealt with a bunch of injuries, but they've been minor. So guys stay on the 10-day IL, 10 to 15-day ILs, right? So unless a guy goes on the 60-day IL, he cannot be replaced on the 40-man roster.
Right, exactly.
So that is a big problem for a lot of teams, that they get guys with these tiny little hamstring injuries, a little elbow problem. They get hit by a pitch and they have a hand that gets bruised and needs to take a couple of days to heal. That they just had this guy sitting in the dugout unable to play, so they're down a man for if they end up on the 10-day IL for at least 10 days. Yeah. Right? Well, but then you have a guy who might miss 20 days. You're like, well, we got to put him on the 60 because we got to replace him. But then again, he's out for 2 months. So that's the problem that a lot of teams are running into. I feel like the Reds had this problem. I know the Mariners have. That's been a major problem for the Mariners, that they haven't been able to bring in enough warm bodies because they have guys out for 10, 15 days, whatever.
Yep. So the Chicago Cubs also have 14 players on the injured list. Detroit has 10. Let's see. What did I also saw the Dodgers, like 5 or 6 players, but Minnesota, 10 players on the IL. New York Yankees, 10 players on the IL. And then if you go all the way down to the Tampa Bay Rays, they're 15 players on the IL right now. And Washington is at 10 or 11 players on the IL. So the injury bug is running amok right now, and
to say the least. Yes, I think that's well put.
We just know that this is what's going to happen. But some of these teams are still winning baseball games, which is to our point. you can't win baseball games with 14 or 15 guys on the IL, but you can win with 8 guys on the IL.
Unless you're the Rays, then you can win games with 15 guys on the IL because you rely on your farm system to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that.
Well,
but I don't know how many games they will continue to win because you've got Margot has a hamstring injury that might linger. Brandon Lowe has a back issue. He's out till the 20th. That's new. That's
Colby White's out for the rest of the season I think he's going to have Tommy John.
Yeah, so Yandy Diaz has been a significant contributor. He has a shoulder injury that could linger. He looks like his was from Sunday, but it says that he's probable for Tuesday, but who knows what's going to happen there.
Same with Wander Franco. Same thing.
Yeah.
Sunday had a problem, and he could be back Tuesday, but we'll see.
Yeah. So keep an eye on the Rays too, because if these injuries linger and they come back to bite them, that could be a mighty fall in the AL East. So could be a big problem. But baseball family, let us know. Let us know what you think about the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can also jump in the mailbag and send us your questions, comments, concerns, and snide remarks about the show. Let us know what you think. You can do that. There's a link in the description of every episode for the mailbag. I almost called it, I don't know what I called it, but anyway, it's in our link tree down there in the description, and it'll be there. It's also on baseballtogether.com. Brig, go ahead and tell us about the shop before I get tied up in knots here.
Don't forget you can jump on the shop at 9plusus.com. It's NINEPLUSUS.com, 9plusus.com. Brad and I showed you earlier, we're both wearing our KBO hats. Mine is in the Romanized Yagyu. His is in Korean script, and it's very exciting. We love them. We have 2 for each team, 1 in Korean, 1 in the Romanized text, which is the English pronunciation of the word Yagyu, which means baseball in Korean. Looks like Brad's wearing his perfect shirt. I got my Baseballers for Lovers inspired shirt on right here. And all of this is available in the shop and more. So you can jump on there, buy yourself something nice. Again, we continue to make improvements and changes. So if you haven't checked it in a while, jump in and see
have a new
what's
shirt.
New. And we have a new shirt. Yes, we do. Not sexy.
Inspired by Marco Gonzalez, who pitched tonight and pitched well, actually. So
very good.
You can get that.
He might be boring. He might also be boring. We don't know.
That's what we're told. But anyway, baseball family, thank you again for joining us this week, and we will catch you next week.